So Yezdi is back with a bang, and they have recently launched 3 new motorcycles in the Indian market, including this, which is the Yezdi Adventure. Hi guys, welcome to DriveSpark. I'm Promeet, and today we are finally riding the Yezdi Adventure. In fact, today we are riding all the 3 motorcycles from the company, and if you want to go and check out the first look video that we did a few days back, so if you want to know about the specs and the aftermarket fitment that the motorcycle has, you can go check out the first look video. The link is in the description. But today's video is going to be all about riding the motorcycles. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. So now first of all, let's talk about the stance of the motorcycle, and for that let me swing my legs over the Yezdi Adventure so that y'all can see how a rider sits on the motorcycle. So as you can see, it has a very upright stance, and the handlebar is slightly canted towards the rider, but that's not an issue. If you feel like you want to move the handlebar, there are just few bolts over here. You can unscrew it and you can adjust the handlebar at home by yourself. So the foot peg is set normally where you'll usually expect an adventure motorcycle's foot pegs to be. So let me quickly just stand and show you how it looks. So you can see that it has a very upright stance, and you will not get tired out because the foot pegs are actually set perfectly, and you will obviously not be riding standing continuously. So yeah, that's about it. And these tank pads that you see when you're standing and riding, they really help the rider to grip on the tank. So yeah guys, that was the Yezdi Adventure's stance. This is how the rider will sit. If you are riding normally on highways also, you can see that it's a very upright position. The handlebar and the foot peg is set in such a way that the rider will be comfortable while standing or sitting, riding wherever he is going. So now let's talk about the seat. So as you can see over here, this gets a split seat setup, and the pillion seat is slightly smaller than the rider's seat, but it has a lot of cushioning in it. It is very comfortable. It will not tire you out whatsoever. Actually, the rider's seat has a small scoop over here, so you can sit comfortably on it and you can do long journeys without any hesitation. So guys, this rack that you see over here and the front frame that you see over here, both come as standard with the Yezdi Adventure. So what this does is that you can mount the panniers over here. That is a part of the official accessory store from the Yezdi showroom. You can actually go to the Yezdi showroom and buy the panniers. So if your pillion rider needs a backrest, you can mount the panniers over here, and the third pannier that will be over here in the center, that will act as a backrest for the pillion rider. Now over here, the front frame that you see, you can mount your jerry cans over here. I think Yezdi has a 5 litre jerry can, so you can carry 10 litres of fuel wherever you're going, and I mean, they just fit very perfectly and they just look one with the motorcycle. It does not look like you put something like an aftermarket fitment. So now let's talk about the engine on the Yezdi Adventure. Now this is a 334 single cylinder DOHC liquid cooled engine, and this engine pumps out 30.2 PS of power at 8000 RPM, and this produces 29.9 Nm, that's almost 30 Nm of torque at around 6500 RPM. Now this engine is mated to a 6-speed gearbox. Now the gearbox is very smooth. There's no problem in shifting between gears, and it also gets a slipper clutch. So now let's talk about the performance and how this motorcycle is ride to. Now first of all, let me tell you, seeing the power and the torque figures, you might have noticed that the power and torque comes at very higher RPM, but let me tell you, this motorcycle has a brilliant low end and a very good mid range. I mean, it does lack a little bit on the top end. That does not mean that this motorcycle is not fast. It is very quick off the line. Maybe it is quicker than some other adventure motorcycles in the market off the line. So as I was telling you, seeing the power and the torque figures, you might figure out that the peak power and torque comes in at higher RPMs. But let me tell you that this motorcycle is definitely quick off the line. It has got a brilliant low end and a beautiful mid range, but it slightly lacks on the top end. So I mean, the cruisability on the motorcycle, if you're doing 100 to 105, maybe 110, it is absolutely fine. And let me tell you one thing, that there is very less vibration in the motorcycle, and to avoid more vibrations, you can see that they have put these rubbers on the foot peg so that the rider cannot feel, I mean, they are there to dampen the vibration and for grip as well. But I mean, because of this, there is very less vibration that is set from the foot peg. But obviously, when you're cruising at triple digit speeds, there will be some amount of vibration from the motorcycle, but it is not felt that much. However, you can cruise on triple digit speeds all day without any hesitation. And just in case if you need to overtake anyone, you will definitely have to drop a gear, and then only you will be able to overtake that person. So speaking about how is it to ride in the city, well, this is a first ride review. So we have been riding the motorcycle for a very less period of time. Actually, we were riding on the highway only, so you'll have to wait for another full road test review that will be out soon. So in that, we will tell you how this motorcycle is to ride in stop and go traffic, whether it's heating or whether it's not heating, or how comfortable it is to ride in the city traffic. So you have to wait for that video. So now let's talk about how this motorcycle performs on the off-road terrain. So as I mentioned earlier that this motorcycle has a very good low end and a mid range, but we wish that this motorcycle had got a little more torque in it, as it has almost 30 Nm of torque, but it is tackling all the obstacles that are thrown in front of it. On the off-road, it can climb here, there, it can crawl over rocks, it can crawl over gravel, but we would definitely want it to do that at higher gears. Now that is not possible because the torque is slightly less. If you are at, for example, third gear and you're doing a 20 or a 30, you will definitely stall at some place where there is a steep slope. But if the motorcycle had enough torque, like a little more torque, maybe like 5 Nm more, so I think in third gear, if you're doing 20, it would easily carry you with that speed and you would not need to shift a gear. So now let's talk about the brake, suspension and the ground clearance. So let me tell you, the Yezdi Adventure has a 220 mm of ground clearance. Now 220 mm is a lot of ground clearance. Actually, you will not bottom out on this on anything. They said that you can, two people with, if you're riding with a pillion also, you will not bottom out. And we actually tried that out with two people sitting. We were going through an off-road patch and the bike did not touch anywhere. So that means that the suspension is set up very brilliantly. Also, one more thing guys, over here you can see that you get a bash plate over here that is located over here. And this is a metal bash plate, and this helps the engine from damage from all the debris and all the rocks and the rocks that are thrown towards it. So yeah, that is really helpful, and that's a really strong bash plate that's present over there. So now let's talk about the suspension of the motorcycle. So at the front you get your regular telescopic front fork, but you can see over here this gets a 200 mm of travel, and at the rear you get a single monoshock that is actually present over here. Let me just point it out. It's present over here, and this has a 7-step adjustable preload. Now the factory setting is at 4, that's in between, but if you want it to be stiffer or you want it to be slightly softer, so you can adjust it. They will give you the tool, you can do it at home, otherwise you can go to the showroom and they will do it for you. So now let's talk about how the suspension is set up. So the suspension, according to me, it is actually, you can say it is in between, but I felt that it is slightly stiffer, and that's a good thing because to tackle this off-road terrain that we are at right now, this was a perfect setup for the suspension. I did not find anything wrong with the preload. I did not want to adjust it. It's actually adjusted to its normal setting, but the normal setting is also slightly stiff, so that's a really good thing. So now let's talk about the on-road capabilities of the motorcycle, and with the 21 and the 17-inch wheel setup that it has, and with the suspension setup, the front end is slightly stiff. So you feel slightly disconnected from the road. The rear end, as I mentioned, it's an adjustable one, so you can stiffen it up or you can loosen it according to your need, but you will need to get used to the motorcycle slowly while you're riding on the road. I'm not saying it's not a comfortable, it's a really comfortable motorcycle with the seat setup also, and it is pretty flickable as well. So it is rideable, but as I mentioned, you need to get used to the motorcycle once you hit the road, and once you hit an off-road patch, if you want to adjust it, you can adjust it back. Now let's talk about the braking capabilities of the motorcycle, and this features discs on either ends. The front is a 320 mm disc rotor, the rear is a 240 mm disc rotor, and this also gets a dual channel ABS. Now in the ABS you have 3 modes. Now there is off-road, there is on-road, or there is road, and there is rain. So in the rain mode, the ABS becomes really sensitive and it will kick in earlier. In the off-road mode, the ABS will allow you to slide the rear end a little bit, and on the road, that is the normal mode, it is equally distributed. So that is the setting that when you're riding on the road, that is where you want to keep the ABS setting. So now the braking duties are pretty good on the motorcycle, and the motorcycle, there is the bite from the brakes is actually nice. Actually, it does a pretty good job to stop this 188 kg motorcycle. Now speaking about some highlights and some features on the motorcycle. Now first of all, since this is an adventure motorcycle, people will definitely want to know the fuel tank capacity. So this features a 15.5 litre fuel tank, which is large enough, and you will not require immediate fuel stop between pumps. This 15.5 litre will actually take you quite a distance, and I think you will not have to stop in between pumps very often. Okay, so at the front, as I mentioned, an LED headlight, LED tail light, LED indicators. Now you also get a charging socket over here that features a Type-C and a normal regular USB charging. Now this thing comes standard on this motorcycle. You also get the digital instrument cluster. Now just besides that, you get a small screen. Now you can pair your phone with this, and this will help you provide turn-by-turn navigation that is really accessible. One more thing that I need to show you guys is that this cluster over here, you can see that you can adjust it. If you can see me moving it, so it depends on how tall are you or how you want it adjusted. And this has a 15-degree angle tilt, which on paper does not sound much, but it actually works wonders when there's a lot of sunlight on top and the glare is right on the glass. So you can just put it down, the glare will go away, and the readouts will be much more clearer. So guys, this was our quick first impression of the Yezdi Adventure, and as I mentioned, we will be getting this motorcycle for a full road test review in a couple of days, and we will get back to you with another video mentioning all the features and how it rides in the city in stop and go traffic and all of that. Until then, if you have liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, share and subscribe to all our social media channels. I'm Pramit signing out. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, be safe and ride safe.